Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Werewolf the Last Warrior, brought to us by Data East. Despite it not being as well known of an NES title as a lot of games, it is still a pretty fun action game. In the game you play as Ken, who is a man who can actually transform into a werewolf, and you do so by picking up power-ups. As a nice balance, there's actually anti-power-ups that will actually power you back down into your human form that are spread out throughout the game. So you always have to be careful what you pick up. So here we go with Werewolf for the NES. After a pretty lengthy, but overall cool intro, we then get to our title screen where we can play 1 or 2 players, and we're of course playing the 1-player mode, and we have a brief bit of more story before we actually get right into the first fight of the game. After the beginning cutscene, you're dropped right into a boss fight. The main move we're going to be using is the charged up ray attack. What you do is you hold down the A button and then release it in order to fire a beam at the boss. You can of course also try to get in close and just punch him once and then duck down in order to avoid him, but this ray move is extremely powerful. You just have to time it correctly and keep your distance away from him. Right after that battle, though, we get transformed into the werewolf form, which is where we're going to be remaining for a majority of the game. We're going to start moving forward here, and enemies are going to come from both the right and the left, with falling rocks and flying objects from the left side. Just turn around when you need to. You can actually avoid a ninja that's going to run up towards you and try to run into you. Just completely ignore him. Be sure, though, to immediately attack this platform right before this hole, because you'll get an invincibility sphere. This invincibility sphere will allow you to walk on the spikes down below for a period of time, and allow you to bypass them. Keep going along the top portion here, and after traveling just a little while, you'll be in another boss fight. Say hello to the same guy we just battled before. Now for our boss strategy here, we're going to move up close to him, hit him a couple of times with our knife-like appendage from the werewolf itself, and then wait for him to jump over our head and do the same thing, just keeping a little bit of distance so that if he does attack, we'll be able to avoid it. After he's defeated, just move over to the right side and you'll be in the next area. Turn left immediately on the next screen in order to take out one of the gun guys, and then drop on down the ladder, go to the right, take out another gun guy, and go down that ladder. At the bottom of the screen, you'll notice not only your health, but you have your enemy's health, the current timer. The game has a relatively strict time limit, so you always have to be moving and knowing where you're going. And on the left side is also an anger meter. If you're able to collect 5 anger spheres, you will be able to actually go into a super werewolf mode. Here's where some things get tricky. You have to be in werewolf form to get past the next little area. you have to do the backflip move by hitting A and B at the same time, and you'll be able to backflip through the laser-like grid in order to avoid taking damage here. That's the only way you're going to be able to bypass. After that laser field, it's time to fight the boss of the stage itself. This weird slime guy likes to bounce around. When he forms solidly, just run up close to him, beat the crap out of him, and when he goes back into his slime ball form, he'll just bounce all around the room. Avoid the bouncing slime guy and just get up close to him each time he forms back into kind of a humanoid looking form, and you'll be able to take him down easily and move on to the next level of the game. At the beginning of each level, you'll have a little bit of a cutscene giving you some more story before you get control of our main character. Moving a few steps forward here, some bricks will start falling from the ceiling. Be very cautious throughout the entire area, of course, of these bricks falling down, as well as some other enemies will plop down as well. The weird dinosaur-like creatures that fall down and land on the ground, you can attack them as they're falling and then duck down when they end up landing and be able to finish them off that way. There's a lot of stuff falling here, so you have to be very careful and move relatively slowly in order to avoid. Do a big jump down into the sewer area below. Watch out for the slime, of course, that's here, and avoid any of the river of slimes that come out of the vents in the background. There's a few items you can pick up in the game that will help you out, including that red orb I just picked up, which destroys all enemies currently on the screen. There's the blue and red W's, with the red one turning you into the werewolf and the blue one turning you back into human form, as well as there are hearts for health and hourglasses for more time and points, well, for points. Once you're back on the main surface, slowly move step by step as things will just keep bombarding you from all ends. It'll be time then, a little bit after that, for another one of these big muscle guys. You getting sick of these guys yet? Well, we still have a couple more to deal with in the game. Hit him once or twice, he'll eventually get angry like he always does. You can just keep attacking him and try to keep your distance. In an area like this, you have a little bit more leeway to move around because of the different levels, but he should go down relatively quick. Right after him, you'll see the boss of the level, but we can't deal with him yet. Instead, we get a cutscene of getting to see our main character climb up a large building. You're now on the rooftop area here. Start heading over to the left side, make some leaps, and you can actually attach yourself onto this zip line and move yourself across. You'll also be able to crawl on the different beams in order to get up to the top of them and jump to the next ones. You have normal and high jumps at your disposal, so of course you're going to use whichever one is appropriate at whatever time. Here you can use a big one in order to land on this girder, and then keep moving over to the left. Be sure to attach yourself safely to the zip line and move across the end of the area, and you'll then fall off the large building that we climbed up just a few moments ago. Well, we'll get the same cutscene kind of in reverse. But when we do end up landing, it's time for the next boss fight. This juggernaut-looking guy, you have to hit him once or twice. He'll then kind of pound the ground for an earthquake-like thing, which you won't be able to move during. He'll also end up getting a large block on top of his head and try to throw that at you. There's actually a lot of bosses similar to this in design in video games, so if you're familiar with any of those in previous games, you'll probably have an idea of how to deal with this guy. The biggest thing is trying to keep away from him when the ground ends up shaking so that you don't end up getting caught in the earthquake yourself, and get your right opportunities to run in and smack him around a little bit. And once he's down, we'll move on to the next level. At the beginning of the next level, of course, you're going to be very careful not to fall into any of the pits that you see. When you land up here, you're going to deal with your first of these stalagmites that are falling down from the ceiling. Then, when you make it over to this section, climb up to this ladder, and then make a jump over to the right. Don't go all the way up to the surface. It'll be easier just to go over here, then you can jump across, and then you can go up this ladder here. Once up on the surface, you're going to have these big ninjas with jetpacks in the air that are going to be flying overhead trying to drop bombs on you. The only thing you have to really worry about is you can get a bunch of them on screen at once, and when you do that, it's going to slow down the game, but there is one of those red orbs available here that you can clear out everything on screen. Since they move and attack relatively slowly, and most of the time they head over to the left side, just keep moving forward. If one of those ninjas get directly in your path, of course hit them, but also be very cautious that if you do kill one of the ninjas, he may end up dropping one of those blue W's, and if he does, make sure you don't grab it because you don't want to go back into human form. At the end, drop down here, and now you're going to be using your backflip ability like we did earlier in the game in order to avoid the lightning bolts that are coming down from the top. The backflip may look a little bit tricky to use, but after just a tiny bit of practice, you should be able to get through that area no problem. Climb up the ladder and head over to the right. You're going to have another one of those gun guys try to get in your way. Duck if you end up seeing him point out the gun before you're able to get close. When you do kill one, you do get a bullet, but you only get a single bullet for each one you kill, and you can only hold, I think, one bullet at a time, so just next time you attack, you'll end up using that against him and be able to take out the next one of the gun guys. Now over here, you want to drop down here. I started going over to the right, but thankfully I caught myself and dropped down. And then you have to do a couple of well-timed backflips to get over the pits and over to the right side here. Once over to the far right, we're going to climb up this ladder all the way to the very top and then continue along here. Once at the end, drop on down, and it'll be time for the next boss fight. This is the toughest boss we've dealt with so far. He doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to hit him. He flies in from the left or right side. When he lands, you'll be able to get your hit in. He'll then usually run back and forth, but there is a little bit of a trick to him. If you get him hit off screen, then go over and duck down on this crate. You can either duck or stand, and if you time it right, you'll be able to hit him as soon as he ends up landing from flying in from the left side. If you do it right, you'll be able to hit him and he'll fly back off screen to the far left. If you don't have the timing down just right, he'll end up bouncing back a little bit and then running to the right, so you'll have to jump over him, and then he'll go back to the left off screen and then repeat the process. While it took me a while, I still never got the exact timing down. Sometimes he lands a little bit early in front of me, but as long as you see him do that little knockback and you're prepared to jump as soon as that knockback happens, you'll be able to avoid any damage that you'll take from him. It does take a while because you're only draining one health at a time, but this is a very safe and effective method for defeating the boss and then getting ready to move on to the next level. next level, as you can see, the jungle theme here, and we're on top of a waterfall to start us off. Head along the top portion. When you make it to the gap here, a log will come down, so you can use the log to jump over to the opposite side. Now, there are fish jumping out of, I guess, water below. Just be careful of them, wait for them either to go back down, or you can just pop them when they pop up and knock them away from you. When you land here, two guys with the jetpacks will pop out of the ground and start flying above you. For the most part, though, I just wait for them to kind of go past me and then just keep moving forward. Since it's more of a hassle to take them out, it's not really worth it. I only end up actually fighting one of the jetpack guys if he ends up coming down towards me finally. Right after that, you're bombarded with a bunch of falling rocks, which are pretty easy to deal with, and then some of those gun guys. You'll end up probably getting a bullet or two from taking them out, and then our good old friend returns. As I had a couple of bullets with me, I was able to hit him a couple of times with those to do pretty significant damage, so if you can stack those on screen right before this guy starts off, you can do a lot of damage to him right at the beginning of the fight. Just past him, a couple more of those ninja guys, and then you'll move on to the next screen. Here you'll drop down a couple of levels. When you fall down, you'll move relatively slowly, and thankfully there's paths right below you can land safely. You don't have to worry about making sure that you land correctly. There's no leap of faith during this section. The only real issue here is, it's kind of pointless, as there's not really any enemies that are coming your way, but eventually you'll get to the very bottom and it's time for the next boss fight. This large, giant creature will end up going up on kind of his back of his tail, hind parts, and you'll be able to attack him at that point. He'll then go into his ball form and roll around. While in the ball form, you won't be able to hit him. You'll have to wait for him to come out of that, and then you'll be able to get in close and deliver a hit to him. He'll then go right back into the ball form and repeat the process. When he ends up facing you, when he is standing up, be sure to duck to try to avoid the projectile that he ends up firing out. You can actually crawl while ducking in the game, so because of that, you'll be able to get up close to him and avoid the projectile he fires out. And don't worry, this isn't the only form. When the boss reaches half of his health, he'll fly up into the air and become a weird flying creature, or maybe it's a different creature altogether, I'm not even sure. But he starts flying back and forth, left and right. You'll have to do big jumps up into the air in order to hit him. Every so often, he'll dive straight on down, just be sure to avoid this, and when he does, you'll be able to actually hit him multiple times when he does this. This form actually ends up being easier than the first form because you can hit him a lot easier because you don't have to worry about the invulnerability of him being in the ball form, and you can jump up to meet him midair, and when he comes crashing down, you can usually get 2 or 3 hits in that way as well. Once he's been defeated though, the whole area will shake and we will move on to the next level. At the beginning of the next level, the person we've been getting all that friendly advice from ends up going mad and attacks us. Stand right here and you'll be able to knock him back several times when he makes his little leaps up into the air. Once he's taken care of, he'll dissipate off screen, and then you'll be immediately attacked by those gun ninja guys. Work your way over to the right, avoiding falling into the pit, of course. You're going to have some of those creatures that fall from the sky that we had earlier on in the game. Wait for them to fall down. You can hit them mid-air. They may go even off right into a pit, and you don't have to worry about them. And there's also the jetpack guys as well here. It's a little bit harder to avoid the jetpack guys during this section because you have to be up on higher platforms that are eye level basically with them as well, so you may have to take out these guys. You won't be able to just keep marking forward like I did on some of the other areas. Be very careful at the end here that when you make that last leap over that little gap that you'll be able to not get knocked into the pit below by that last jetpack guy. Now we're at the end of the game. It's a series of boss fights here, and it starts off with, well, our good old friend, the giant bald muscle guy. No surprise here. Like always, keep attacking him, avoid his attacks if possible, and at this point, if you've collected all of the anger spheres from those guys alone, you probably should have enough to go into like the full-blown super werewolf mode, but since I avoided them, I don't end up going that mode in the run, but you don't need it in order to be able to complete the game. It just gives you a more powerful attack for a period of time. Next up, the doctor will drink a potion and turn into a werewolf himself. He'll jump back and forth here. You'll be able to get him into kind of a loop. You can get him to just keep jumping back and forth over your head. Every time you attack him, duck down, or just make sure that you're out of his way so that he doesn't end up running into you or hit you when he ends up making his jumps. For being pretty near the end of the game, this is a relatively easy fight. Just takes a little bit to drain all of his health, but you can see it's a very simple loop. If for some reason he does jump the opposite way for you, he may run then towards you. Just hit him when he does, and he should go back into the normal jumping over your head loop. At this point, the game isn't over. There's still another boss to fight, but they do a lot of build-up before the final boss actually ends up making his appearance. The whole ground will start shaking, lightning will strike, and finally the boss will appear. Stand right here and immediately attack as soon as he spawns. Then, after he jumps to the left side, run over and hit him. Then, he'll jump over to the right side, run over and hit him there. You'll notice pretty quickly it's easy to get him in a nice little loop. This isn't the only part though for the fight. This is just the first half of it, so enjoy the easier part of this battle for sure. Like an earlier boss, when you get him to half health, that's when the fight actually begins. He'll do a super charged up move towards you. You should have a decent amount of health going into this, and be able to just keep hitting him each time he ends up doing his full charge. If you need to jump over the full charge he ends up releasing and then land and deliver another hit. You can keep him stuck against the right wall where you'll be able to get plenty of hits in on him and just have to jump over his projectile to avoid it. A lot harder than that first form, but considering the first form was one of the easiest bosses ever, this breeze of a fight will be over relatively quickly, and you can sit back and enjoy the ending to Werewolf the Last Warrior. So there you have it, Werewolf the Last Warrior, a relatively simple but pretty fun action game for the NES that I don't think a whole lot of people talk about. Has a couple of cool boss fights, and the overall mechanic of being able to go into the werewolf form and having to kind of try to keep that werewolf form the entire time is what makes the game enjoyable.
being werewolf form, it does make the game a lot easier though, so if you want a challenge, try to beat most of the game without going into werewolf form, and you'll definitely find it a lot tougher, but still manageable by far. After the end credits wrap up and we see a picture of that final boss, after a little bit of a wait, a black screen will get one more last little bit where it's saying next time with the boss that we battled. This picture that comes right back in, and then the game goes back to the main menu and you can start the game all over again. But with that, that's going to wrap up this episode of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up or commenting down below. Those things actually do help the video get seen by more people. If you enjoyed this playthrough, check out my playthrough of Frankenstein, The Monster Returns, another obscure horror game for the NES. I want to remind everyone also, of course, that the Play It Through t-shirt, the first ever Play It Through t-shirt featuring the Cornshaq character and the NES black box artwork, is available now. It's going to be available through November 12th, and you can click the link in the description in order to check out the shirt. And buying it, of course, does help out the channel and all that good stuff. And speaking of helping out the channel, thank you all for supporting my Patreon. All the members listed here. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing. And if you would like to help out the channel and all, you can click the Patreon button. And as little as $1 a month can keep this channel going. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this Play It Through. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, I hope you enjoy.